Look, I don't have a funny or cool intro for this guide because for the past few days, my life has been consumed with everything that has to do with Tangtang. There's a lot going on with her kit, gear, and teams, and I'm actually kinda hyped to show you guys how strong she is. And so, let's just dive into this ultimate Tangtang guide video, so you can see for yourself what makes her great besides that arched back. Okay, so the first thing I quickly want to go over would be the playstyle and kit. Tangtang essentially can be played as a support, but she's also a really good choice as a main DPS unit. In fact, I would say right now she's one of the comfiest characters to use in the game as a main DPS, because with the way her kit was designed, she can pretty much clear any domain with one rotation, including even some bosses thanks to her unique ultimate. And also in world exploration, or when farming essences, everything gets demolished so fast. Now you don't necessarily need to play Tangtang on field, she's perfectly fine in teams with Yvonne or Last Rite as a support, but I'll talk about this more in the teams section. Now, when it comes to the kit, best way to start off is by examining how her combo ability works. Basically, whenever anyone applies Cryo Infliction, or when Art's burst damage is triggered on the enemy, Tangtang combo becomes available, which will deal kinda mid damage, but what really matters is the whirlpool this combo creates. You see, these whirlpools shown here exist menacingly for a reason. By themselves, they don't do much. The first passive essentially just allows them to reduce enemies' movement speed, while at the same time teammates can move faster, but it barely matters since you'll often end up out of their effective range. However, what's really crucial is how the skill interacts with these whirlpools. So when you press the skill button, Tangtang dives underground and immediately emerges, dealing a bit of damage and summons these tornadoes called water spouts, which deal significantly higher damage. By default, she always summons one water spout and it always applies Cryo Infliction once. But here's how the skill becomes much stronger with whirlpools. If any of them exist, which you can also quickly check by looking here, she actually consumes them, and additional water spouts will be summoned per each whirlpool. Not only that, each additional water spout also returns 20 SP, so with 2 of them, that's 40 SP refund. Pretty nice when the skill costs 100. And then most importantly, if she did create additional water spouts, then the enemy becomes afflicted with Art's susceptibility for 15 seconds, which means they will take more Art's damage. And as you can see at max skill level, by summoning 3 water spouts, the enemies will gain 10% Art's susceptibility. Essentially, if you do her combo 2 times and then use the skill, she will summon 2 more water spouts, so 3 total, and this will lead to 40 SP refund and 10% art susceptibility. Just keep in mind, no matter how many water spouts come out, she always only applies 1 Cryo Infliction. But yeah, this combo and skill pairing is so powerful. Literally, she can clear world enemies so fast with a simple setup, by just using her skill, then triggering combo, and then doing the skill again for some big front-loaded damage burst. I don't recommend doing this in Umbral mode or when going up against bosses, but against world mobs, these numbers are super effective. Now this finally leaves us with the ultimate, and man, it's frankly quite broken. When casted, roughly for about 4 seconds, the enemies become completely immobile, and this even works on bosses. And then during it, some damage over time is dealt, and after the duration is over, a rogue wave crashes onto the enemy, dealing some decent damage. But you never ever want to just let the ultimate end naturally, because this leads to a massive DPS loss. Instead, you can perform a dive attack with the active unit, so just jump and attack. This will immediately end the ultimate, and a far more stronger rogue wave will come crashing. But what's even more crazy is the second passive. When dive attack is performed during ultimate, Tangtang automatically casts her battle skill for free, and it also consumes any whirlpools that were created, and the overall damage will be boosted by 60%. So in a nutshell, if you trigger her combo twice and cast the ultimate and then dive attack immediately, she will then cast a much more powerful skill for free without using up any SP, and provide all the benefits the skill can do. One thing to note though, the debuffs coming from auto-casted skill appear a bit later than Ultimate's Rogue Wave, but luckily it's not a big deal even if the wave does not benefit from these debuffs, since majority of Tangtang's damage lies in water spouts anyway. But the funny thing is, if you play her as a support with Arknights said, in quite a few teams you don't even need to cast her skill in the rotations, like at all. Just trigger her combo twice, and you should be able to use the ultimate with a dive attack to end it, gain all the auto-casted skill benefits, and unleash great damage. But again, I'll go over the pros and cons of this playstyle in the next section. Anyway, last thing to mention would be her basic attacks. I mean, they look cool and have decent range, although with some enemies when I lock onto them, the camera goes a little crazy sometimes. Other than that, if you plan on using her as a main DPS, these basics will be your bread and butter to trigger things like Zaihi's or Last Ride skills on Final Strike. Just keep in mind, the Final Strike isn't really a true ranged attack, like it doesn't have any homing, so against jumping enemies, Final Strike won't land on them if they're in mid-air. Alright, enough with the kit. Let's see how Tangtang's rotations actually work in several teams. Now, the first team rotation I want to go through would be with Last Ride as a main DPS, while Tangtang is supporting her various debuffs and good sub DPS. In addition, other recommended supports would be Zaihi and then Perlica, but I'll go over other options in the team section. However, this team specifically is one of the easiest to pilot in the entire game, and it's one of the strongest to be honest. But yeah, assuming you start the fight with 0 energy on ultimates, so this mostly applies right now to Umbral mode, you always want to start off with Zaihi's and Last Ride skills, so you can start building up cryo infliction on the enemy from final strikes. When the first final strike hits, it will trigger both Tangtang's and Perlica's combos. Then afterwards, cast Last Ride skill again and do one more final strike to apply the second cryo from Last Ride and then third cryo stack from Zaihi's skill. By this moment, you can use Last Ride's combo. Afterwards, cast Zaihi's skill again, and after final strike, you should have enough SP to cast Last Ride's skill again. After final strike once more, Tangtang's second combo will pop up. Use it, and by now, if Tangtang is using Arknights set, or if you're doing any of the domains that have ultimates ready, cast her ultimate and do dive attack to end the ultimate early, which will consume both whirlpools and trigger Tangtang's skill with all 3 water spouts. Afterwards, use Last Ride's skill once more, and then by that time, Zaihi's and Perlica's combos should line up, and by this moment, it's now the time to cast Zaihi's and Perlica's ultimates, which means Last Ride combo should be used afterwards, and then finally her ultimate can be triggered for massive damage. And then, rinse and repeat once more. I mean, it looks complex, but essentially, you just want to keep recasting Last Ride's skill after nearly every final strike, and recast Zaihi's skill after every second final strike or so. And also, if you're just farming domains or bosses or trying to speedrun, then instead of this whole long rotation, just make sure to trigger 2 combos from Tangtang, so she has 2 whirlpools, then cast Zaihi's ultimate followed by Perlica's, then Tangtang's ultimate, and make sure to do the dive attack to apply susceptibility from auto-casted skill, and then finally cast Last Ride's combo and ultimate. Also, if you really want to sweat it, since Zaihi's skill buff only applies to active unit, you can swap from Last Ride to Tangtang or vice versa before each final strike when Zaihi's skill is active, so they then both can gain Art's amp buff. Now, on the other hand, if you want to play Tangtang as a main DPS, here's a cool rotation with Gilberta, Zaihi, and Perlica. Start by casting Zaihi's skill as usual, then after final strike, which will trigger Perlica's combo followed by Gilberta's combo, use Tangtang's skill to trigger her first combo. After next final strike, recast Zaihi's skill, and after 2 more final strikes, Zaihi will apply cryo from her combo and allow Tangtang to use her combo second time. After this moment, or you can even anticipate it earlier, cast Gilberta's and Zaihi's ultimates, and you can do the same for Perlica's if it's ready. And then finally, use Tangtang's ultimate and perform dive attack to end it early and deal some big damage. Otherwise, if you're having trouble with ultimates lining up perfectly due to gear differences or not enough energy from stats, you can always simply do 2 combos, cast Tangtang's skill, and then afterwards in next rotation, do her 2 combos yet again, and cast ultimate and do the dive attack to auto-cast the skill. Finally, here's one more rotation for Yvonne enjoyers. Here, you want to start off with a Zaihi skill, followed by Tangtang's skill to just trigger her combo and apply the first cryo stack. Then perform one final strike with Yvonne and trigger Perlica's combo, and do one more final strike, which then triggers Zaihi's combo, and immediately after use Yvonne's skill to solidify the enemy, and do her instant final strike with combo. After 2 more final strikes, while making sure to top up Zaihi's skill, keep doing them until you can trigger Tangtang's combo from Zaihi's skill. And at this moment, since Tangtang has 2 whirlpools deployed, you will want to use Yvonne's skill and then cast Tangtang's ultimate. Use dive attack with Yvonne, and then with all buffs active from Tangtang, Perlica's combo should pop up from final strike, which means now you can cast Zaihi's ultimate and Yvonne's ultimate, and then just pew 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 with basic attacks and end the misery of the boss you're bullying. Like, honestly, there's a lot of ways to approach Tangtang rotations, but it seems like it's best to always use her skill or ultimate only after 2 of her whirlpools have been deployed, or in other words, after her combo got triggered twice. You can look at all the gear that's been used for these rotations. You'll notice when using her as a support she's on Shire Knight set, so make sure to just stack intellect on Zaihi since she's not on Shire Knight set herself. But frankly, since the 1.1 update, all domains including Crises boss fights let you start with full energy on a whole team. So if you just want to improve her damage, you can use the new Bone Crusher set. But hey, I think now is a good time to segue into her best builds. Alright, so majority of Tangtang's damage comes from the battle skill, more specifically the water spouts. But when leveling her abilities, I highly recommend raising combo to level 9 because this will reduce cooldown, and at max level 12, the cooldown gets reduced again by 1 second. Still, damage wise, you want to prioritize first the battle skill, then ultimate, then combo, and finally basic attacks. You should absolutely raise all of them to level 9 at least. But then when it comes to max level 12, go for battle skill, then combo, then ultimate. And I would only max out basics if you are truly planning to on-field her as a main DPS, although the additional multipliers are quite small. But as you can see, Tangtang primarily scales with agility, so every 1 point increases her attack by 0.5%, and every point in strength, which is her secondary stat, increases her attack by 0.2%. So we want any gear and weapons that gives her a lot of agility basically, while strength is also nice to have. But yeah, let's talk about Soup's gear. Essentially, she has 2 different sets you can go for. The first one would be the new Bone Crusher set, and that's the one I chose on my main account to Artifice. The set bonus is really strong here since it provides 15% attack by default, and then after casting a combo, next battle skill gains plus 30% damage. And this can stack twice, so literally, this set is tailor-made for her, as you always want to have 2 combos triggered before using her battle skill or ultimate, which as a reminder, after using dive attack, it still autocasts the battle skill and it benefits from this set too. So yeah, going for 2 copies of Bone Crusher Mask T2 kits, Bone Crusher Wristband T1 gloves, and Bone Crusher Heavy Armor T2 would be the recommended set if you want to maximize Tangtang's DPS, whether you play her as a support or main DPS. However, the calcs and theory crafting done for this set assume that she starts with full energy. Basically, since all of the domains have been buffed with this, quality of life changed since 1.1 went live. Without ultimates prepped, this set will be a little slow when it comes to building up energy, since she will literally have 0 ultimate gain efficiency stat, and so in that case, if you primarily want to make sure her ultimate can be casted as soon as possible, and if you're also anticipating next Umbral Monument cycle, where in this mode, you start with no ultimates ready, and so in that case, you want to go with Shire Knight set instead, which is made up of 2 kits of Eternal Shire Knight Power Core and Eternal Shire Knight Gloves. The offset armor piece remains Bone Crusher Heavy Armor T2. Keep in mind, if you will use Tangtang together with Zaihi in a team, and she's on Shire Knight set, then Zaihi should be absolutely built with just a lot of intellect. You can see the recommended set here. As a reminder, intellect helps Zaihi improve her ultimate's buff. Alright, next we have the weapons, and starting with her signature weapon, Brigand's Calling, which by the way costed me so much sanity to just max it out, boy oh boy. Anyway, the first 2 substats increase her agility and attack percent, so they are really strong here, and then the passive ability provides 25.6% cryo damage boost by default when you max out the substat, and then when cryo infliction is applied by the wielder by using ultimate or battle skill, cryo damage is further boosted by 32% for 20 seconds. On top of that, if art susceptibility is applied, which Tangtang of course can do that with her skill, then affected enemy suffers arts damage taken by 9.6% for 20 seconds. Basically, this weapon is cracked. And the next best option, Home Longing, which you can obtain from the Battle Pass for free I believe, hence it's a perfect fit for her since the first 2 substats boost her agility and cryo damage, while the passive makes her next skill deal increased damage after casting the combo, and it can stack twice as well. But yeah, here you can see the weapon rankings thanks to Low Priority and Catalyst Online. They've been very helpful with their calcs, and as you'll notice, if you for some reason have Clannable or Wedge fully refined, then they will be slightly stronger than unrefined Home Longing. Other than that, yeah, just take a moment to soak in the weapon rankings, and let's move on to the teammates. And starting with Last Rite, she's an amazing partner in crime, and if you don't have the resources yet to invest into Tangtang's gear, slap on her Shire Knight set, provided you already have invested into Last Rite's gear. Otherwise, you can still keep Shire Knight on Tang, or go for Bone Crusher set. Just remember, in most rotations, you will keep casting Last Rite's skill to apply Cryo Infliction to reach those 3 stacks, so she can trigger her combo, while Tangtang's skill will rarely be used unless you're rushing some content like bosses with full energy at the start. Alright, next we have Zaihi, pretty much the best unit in the game when it comes to boosting cryo DPS, and her healing is also quite good for the active unit. As I said before, if you are going to use Shire Knight set on Tangtang, then make sure to only build as much intellect as possible on Zaihi, and you can see the recommended gear here. Moving over, the bird, the legend, Perlica is one of the best units to throw into Tangtang teams, since all she does is apply electrification from her combo, and electrification is super good, since it makes enemies take more arts damage, and more importantly, this debuff can be scaled with arts intensity, so I highly recommend you equip your Perlica with Pulsar Lab set, and something like Ether Tech Gloves, which gives Perlica even more arts intensity from the substat. As for the weapon, I like using Stanza of Memorials, so after casting Perlica's ultimate, everyone will gain an attack buff. Now, as for Yvonne, there's a whole guide for her I made, so you can just simply use a build like this one shown here. Although, one thing to note when playing Yvonne is that you will want to use Tangtang's skill at the start of rotation, so that there's enough cryo infliction stacks on the enemy when Yvonne uses her skill, so that she can regain more energy. But yeah, there's also Gilberta. She's pretty great against groups of enemies, and her buffing is quite potent, if I may say so myself. Still, since Gilberta is often equipped with Arknights set, this would mean there would be an overlap with Tangtang if she's also using the same set, since the buffs cannot stack from this set. So it's best to just use the new Bone Crusher set with Tong when Gilberta is in the team. Lastly, there's also Alish. You can use him if you have Thermite Cutter on him equipped, which will provide some damage boosting, plus he can also help recover some SP. I also didn't directly address this, but both Zaihi and Alish can now use Redeemer's Armor, which is an excellent offset armor piece they can utilize to help increase intellect and improve ultimate gain efficiency. Otherwise, you can use some other units like Estella or Ardelia, but primarily, these would be the ones that I recommend at least as of making this video. And more or less, you will probably always want to use Zaihi, since she's an amazing support, then pick another hard-hitting unit like Last Ride or Yvonne, and then the last unit can be someone like Perlica or Alish. Right now, I would say the two best teams I found to be was with Zaihi, Perlica, and either Last Ride or Yvonne, in terms of how easy it is to pilot them and use on day-to-day basis. Last Ride especially feels great with Tangtang because of how easy it is to build up those 3 cryo infliction stacks. So yeah, huge win for those who kept believing in Last Ride. Okay, so the last thing I want to go through would be the potentials, but honestly, Endfield really doesn't let units obtain some broken power if you pull for their additional copies. And that's the case for Tangtang as well. As you can see, the calcs show that the damage gain is not that significant, although I believe she benefits a bit more from potentials if you're using Arknights set on her, so that's something to keep in mind if you're thinking of going into depth. Anyway, that will be the guide. Sorry it took so long to make it. You've probably seen quite a few creators mention how we didn't get a head start for Tangtang, so we basically just had to work the same time the update went live, and yeah, it's been quite brutal. And if I missed anything, let me know in the comments and I will update my pinned message. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'd appreciate it if you could press the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and bye bye.